Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Collectible Conversations. We've got a jam-packed episode for you today. We're going to start you off with some news, including the sellout of Daniel Ashram, Daniel A, whatever his name is, his Charizard sculpture of the original base set Charizard. We've also got a super fantastic main topic for you today, specifically about, is Pokemon too big to fail? Finally, we'll wrap it up with our infamous blips and bleps. And but before we jump in, we're your hosts. I'm Squeaks.
I'm Pokemon Radar. What's going on, guys?
There you go. And how you doing, man?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Starting to feel a lot better. So you'll get a lot more conversation out of me today. Thank you for carrying.
Today. We're gonna balance it out. You can just carry it.
Yeah, thank you for carrying that last episode. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes. But let's jump right into it. We've got a lot of news to cover today, so I want to get right into it. I'm amped, dude. Yeah, if you guys can't tell, I've had like 8 Pepsis today, so let's rock and roll.
Well, we've got some pretty big news here, mostly surrounding the vintage market. As you mentioned, Daniel Arsham, who's a kind of contemporary modern type sculpture artist, dropped his second Pokemon piece, the recreation of the base set Charizard. He released 500 in total of the pink tinted Charizards. There's a white version as well that was released in China. I believe it was the same amount.
Interesting.
Same thing happened with the Pikachu. We got the white Pikachu. China got the blue tint, which was much nicer. So it actually sells for more. So I think the Charizard, we got the better of the two this time. And yeah, it sold out within seconds. I was there ready to get one. For whatever reason, I didn't have my cookies enabled to allow me to make the purchase, and I missed out on it. So it was a piece that I
sold out in like 10 seconds or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, even if I had my cookies, I don't know if I was even in that line to get it.
You hit the button and you hope it goes through.
Yeah, exactly. So, I was really upset about that because I was ready to buy the Pikachu when it dropped, and I was actually just, I got, had some sticker shock. It was $2,000. I thought it was going to be like 800, and I hesitated on the Pikachu and missed out on it. And then and in the secondary market, I wasn't really feeling it, but for the Charizard, I went ahead and bought one on the secondary market, paid $3,800 for it. I think you can still find them for $33, $34, $35 plus tax or whatever. So,
what was the MSRP again on the Charizard?
$2,000, same exact price.
Okay, so you paid a little under double.
Yeah, which I thought was just fine. I compared it to the Pikachu, who is sitting at double, maybe slightly higher today. Yeah, there's a lot of availability on the Charizard right now, so I don't know if it'll drop a little bit or if it'll just people will stay stubborn at that 1.5, 2x price range for a while.
You said there are 500 for this release and then 500 in China, correct? 500 of essentially each of the two colors.
I believe so. I don't know the China release specifically, but it would just make sense. He does things very methodically. So
I actually have a few questions about this for you. I'm going to preface with, I am not a huge fan of his art style. It's just not for me. And I think that's okay. I think, not everything needs to be catered to me, right? I think it's cool that a lot of people enjoy these releases. But let me ask you this. First of all, you mentioned that there are two distinct differences, one in China and one here. And maybe you don't have this information. I know it can be hard to come by, but you had said that theirs sells for more than ours does. Do you think part of that is just due to accessibility, and that obviously the one over here is going to be much easier for us to obtain? And do you think that there's maybe that reciprocal effect that ours is more over there?
Very, very well could be. I mean, I noticed one of the China released Charizards on the eBay market for $4,500, so it was more out here. But just from a general the conversation with people that are fans of his and the fans of the pieces themselves have preferred these special tinted versions, I guess. So, and there's only been 2 of them. Like there's been the Pikachu and the Charizard.
His artwork is more of like a crystalline type effect, like the crystals and stuff. So you would think the color tint would kind of accent and highlight that. So it makes sense to me. Yeah,
and I believe in person it does shine a little bit better than what you see just on the computer. So and especially the Charizard, it's a red card. Although it's colored pink. It has, you know, that red hue to it. So it fits that piece, in my opinion, better than the bland white. Although I would love to have both next to each other. Maybe I'll find a way to snag that other one at a cheaper price. But
So my other follow-up question to that, and this is what I suspect a lot of the viewers are more wondering out there, is was this an investment purchase for you, or is this a personal purchase? Because like I said, I don't really care about these, and I'm not sure I am knowledgeable enough to jump in and say whether it's a good or bad investment vehicle. So what is kind of your thought process in wanting to go in on it, and not only wanting to go in on it, but willing to pay almost 2x MSRP on day one?
yeah, definitely led by an emotional, personal decision. I did, you know, like I do with everything, I think about future price and current market and what what the outlook might look like in the future. And based on the limited availability of it, the extended releases that we will see in the future, in my opinion, from him, I follow him quite closely now, um, and hear that see that he has other sculptures. So I think there's going to be a continued build up of these pieces. So it's not going to stop right after this Charizard. There's going to be other pieces, and it will kind of, I think, in my opinion, it'll help push the value up on specific pieces that people will want. Being this Charizard card with its even further outreach to us card collectors, aside from just the Pikachu statue, which I don't think it's an artwork from a card, so it doesn't have that connection. And also, just paying attention to his Instagram account, the names that were commenting on his post about it makes me believe that there are going to be some high influential people purchasing these things, and most likely showing them off on their Instagram, on their YouTubes, wherever they have their outlet, and it will drive a lot more attention to these specific pieces and the further pieces as well.
Yeah, and I will say the way they're designed, I mean, they are fantastic display pieces, and not just for your average collector, but even maybe your high-end collector, or maybe somebody that just wants, maybe they had nostalgia for Pokemon. They live in a really nice mansion and they just want something that kind of fits all their other design, but they don't want toys and everything else scattered everywhere. You can put up a nice Pikachu statue and it blend in. You can put up that nice Charizard art on the wall or something like that, and it kind of blend into that fit. So it kind of has appeal to dual sides. And I do see that. I will say the Charizard I liked better than the Pikachu. Still not a huge fan, but I think it has more appeal to the sector of our game that we're in. I think the Pikachu maybe has bigger appeal to Pokemon collectors as a whole. But I can see, why, people would want to go in on the Charizard, especially on that higher end. So I do think that there could be upward potential there. I'd probably have to research it a little more. But yeah, it was an interesting release, to say the least. It's always interesting when we have these products that come in that sell out in seconds, like we see PS5s and Xbox Series X's and stuff like that do. We don't see as much of that in Pokemon, just because of the way the distribution cycle works. I think we saw it with the skateboards on the Pokemon Center not that long ago. But
I got one up there, yeah.
Yeah. So,
and I think you grabbed a couple as well. So
I did.
That's something that I'm really enjoying, that I think Pokemon is doing on purpose to give their collectors something to actually collect outside of their mass printed cards. So the fact that it's limited, the fact that it's extremely exclusive, and they're very, very protective over their IP, they're doing it in a great way. And yeah, we can talk about that more.
We'll jump into that more with the main topic, but we've got more news. What do you got?
Yeah,
for
so
us?
touching base again with staying in line with the artist here. You want to touch on Yukimori, one of our favorites?
So Yukimori actually has been signing cards. Many of you might not even know the name, but know the cards. All of the cards that were designed with the claymation artwork. So there's many infamous ones. I think some of the most famous are the Dittos that were in the EX era that were designed, like Squirtle and Geodude and Bulbasaur and Pikachu and those different ones. A lot of them are like Delta species ones. Those were designed. She actually has done all of those, pretty much all the claymation artwork throughout the years. She was actually doing signings. If you reached out to her, I believe it was on Twitter, but it may have been Instagram. But either one, if you reached out to her, you could get her address, send her the card with a prepaid return label, and she would actually sign it for you. We even had some friends that did it. Unfortunately, all good things do end, and she's no longer doing it specifically because somebody was reselling the signatures that they received back on, I believe it was eBay or somewhere, and she caught wind of that and took it quite personally, and so is no longer doing those signings. And this actually brought up a bigger topic in our Discord that we discussed on, you know, whether there should be the expectation that people are going to do that anyways. And that's not really the topic today, but I do want to note that there was a really interesting discussion around that. So if you guys are out there and you want to hear more on this, we could probably somehow include it in another podcast, because it is kind of a bigger topic that we could talk about, and just like ethics and morality and things like that. So if that's something you guys would ever want us to hit on, let us know in the comment section. But yeah, so she is no longer doing any signings, at least for the foreseeable future. She said she wasn't doing any. So pretty much what's out there is what's out there.
Stop ruining this kind of for us. Stop it. This has happened multiple times in the past now. When will people learn? When will people learn? It's.
I think people don't care.
They don't. You're right. Next news, and these all kind of tie into one another. First, real quick, another Illustrator was listed on Yahoo Japan. This time,
but it wasn't.
It wasn't our favorite buddy over there, Pokino. It was someone else who does have great feedback. First time I've ever seen an Illustrator listed with really nice photos. Took high res, well lit photos of back, front, corners, all the above that you like to see on eBay. So, I don't know if it's going to hurt it or help it finally, because you can see the imperfections finally and people aren't taking that gamble on it. But list price is $300K. It will end probably shortly after this podcast is posted, but remaining to see what happens there, because again, it's not Pokino. Our people taking that risk.
When you say it will end, is that because it's an auction, or is that because you think someone's going to buy it once they see the podcast?
It's an auction. Currently, zero bids at the $300,000 mark.
Interesting.
I also saw in the description that they were very specific on how to go about bidding and buying this card. So there might be some limitations there that I don't understand, and why it doesn't have bids yet. So I'm curious to see what happens.
So let me ask you this, and we don't have to unpack this a ton, but one of the comments we got from viewers is they kind of like when we do talk about some of the news a little more in depth. So I want to ask you something with regards to this. Is, say this Illustrator doesn't get a bid, say it just $300K, nobody takes it. Do you think that hurts the Illustrator as a whole? I know you talked about that there may be some seller limitations there, that there may be, some things that may cause it to not get those bids. But, we've heard a lot of rumblings about bigger sales. We saw the 420, a 360, we saw the 900K trade, et cetera, et cetera. But now you've got one, 300K. It's accessible. It might not be a 9 or a 10. But if it doesn't get a bid and doesn't sell, what do you think that does inherently to the card market-wise?
Unfortunately, I think it's going to put more of a shadow on the seller itself, and people are going to start questioning the authenticity of that specific copy more so than the market. I think this conversation we're having is really going to be the only public conversation about this card. Not too many people talk about this stuff. They like to keep it to themselves, because you can turn that $300,000 into $600 tomorrow if you had the cash and you had the balls to take that risk to buy this thing, and go through me, because I have some buyers for it. And so
plug check.
High end deals, hit me up. So I unfortunately I don't think it will. I know your biggest focus on the Illustrator right now is the number of copies that seem to be popping up. So there's a few unknowns that are happening right now, but that I just it'll just always be filled with the complaints of, there's limitations on buying, that's why I didn't sell, and people will understand that.
Yeah, and I think the card's great. And I do want to clarify, my only qualm with the copies is, I'm not in the market for an Illustrator. I can't afford an Illustrator. It's just not where I'm at in life right now. But I still think the card's great. I think it's fantastic for the hobby. I do think it has a lot of history there. It does just concern me of effectively how dry and sparse this card was for years. And of course, anytime you have a price spike, that's going to pull some of them out of the woodwork. But it's just the sheer amount of where they're getting pulled out from that you do have to start to question, the numbers that we've been told over time? Was there misinformation given? Were things incorrect? Because a lot of the data surrounding it is still kind of veiled. There is still almost this mist around it that you can't see through. And, we're trying to navigate and figure that data out as years go. There's been things in the past that we thought there was only X amount of, or this thing or that thing, and we were concrete and sure until something else came along and told us that we were completely wrong. And so it's just one of those things. I like to just keep track of it more in terms of a information perspective, so that we can, the more information you have, the more you learn, the better you can associate other things, etc. So that's my main thing with it. It's not that I think the Illustrator is a scam, it's more just I like to be informed and, kind of keep track of everything. So
yeah, no, it's interesting thing that's happening right now, and I'm curious to see how it plays out in the future. But I personally, I think 300K is very undervalued. So good luck to whoever is deciding to bid on that or is able to win it, and hopefully I can see it one day.
there you go.
So after that, we've got first edition base. Is it making a comeback here? Graded Power posted a video a couple days ago doing a box break, selling off the packs, adding in certificates of authenticity with their tamper-proof seals. I hate all that stuff because it is easily recreatable. Sorry. It's a great add-on, but people are not. I don't trust a lot of people. So that's something that's very easy to tamper with.
I think the line is drawn with that I think the tamper-proof seals and all of that is for the authenticity from them to the customer buying the pack.
Yeah.
I think the expectation that tamper-proof is then going to carry on to any future buyer, maybe from that person, that's probably a null point.
Yeah.
We're also going to get ready here to mention, Leonhart just purchased a first edition box from Collector's Cash.
Very interesting.
And yes, and we'll touch on that. But I want to know, I was actually looking through Collector's Cash's Instagram yesterday because they had posted 2 of those boxes not that long ago and also had a certificate of authenticity from them. And so I think it's just one of those things that it's more about a store, which, Graded Power is a store owned by Jim Brusso, one of the most well-known names in the Magic community.
Yeah.
You've never dealt in high-end Magic and not encountered Jim in some fashion. And so I think it's just more one of those things to provide that reassurance that as a store, because we've seen so many boxes broken this year that were resealed, that they're willing to stand behind their product and say, we've authenticated this to the best of our ability and we believe it to be real and we'll stand behind that. Because then if you get it, and Leonhart cracks his box open and it's fake, then he's got them standing behind it to say, we'll back you up.
Yeah.
And breaking down that, that Leonhart thing a little more, he actually posted a video today for us. It'll be yesterday for you guys when you watch this, where he actually sits down with the owner of Collector's Cash and they break it down on camera right there and open it up to verify that it is legitimate.
Well, before you dive into that one more, the authentication thing, it's fantastic for that first seller, but knowing the business we're in, the amount of hands that exchange over time, that letter of authenticity kind of loses its prowess. That's kind of what I was saying towards. But
absolutely.
Leonhart sat down with Collector's Cash, like you were saying. If you want to continue, sorry for breaking your thought.
Yeah, no, you're good. No, I think that's a great point to make. And so they effectively opened up the box, and I think this is a very smart decision, right? Lee is a genius individual, incredibly pragmatic. I don't need to, speak his praise. Everyone knows it, but I think this is just something that we're learning you have to do with high-end stuff like this at this point. It's great to have a sealed box. It's so awesome to know that shrink has never been busted. But when you're now starting to deal in that $300,000, $400,000 range, having that assurance to know that what's under that shrink wrap is legitimate is incredibly important. And so I think we're going to start seeing that shift more. We saw when the Dumb Money TV guys opened the box with Guru, it did end up being fake. Had they not verified that box and did, because they were going to tamper proof it and everything to verify, which is what they did on the second one they got that was legitimate. But had they not done that on the first one, they would just be sitting there with a dud box. And so, we see this in sports cards all the time. There's actually a company out there that will take a box, unshrink it.
Nope.
Verify it's legit.
Nope. Actually, Baseball Card Exchange I've talked to
Okay.
the founder, the owner of that before. I knew where you were going with that because
Yes, yes, yes.
I
Please stop me. Correct me if
I
I'm wrong.
contacted him about Pokemon and asked him what his thoughts were on it, um, and he only authenticates and puts his seal, his baseball card exchange seal, around boxes that are 1979 and prior, because those were the boxes that did not come out of the factory with a seal on it.
Okay,
So he takes
okay.
the
So they
boxes that
don't take the shrink off, they just
correct,
validate ones that didn't have a seal, and that's why they
correct.
won't touch Pokemon.
Correct, because it's just
Okay.
there's too many questions, and that's where there's been this conversation, and I've been talking about this for years now about are people comfortable with a company or a person like can I create a Pokemon radar seal? Send me your boxes. I open it, authenticate it, reseal it with my logo. Are people going to be comfortable with that versus a true manufacturer wrap seal, like WotC logo? So
Mm.
it's a battle that I think we're getting closer and closer to falling on the other side finally. Me personally, I've got a box right now that I'm a little concerned about, but I've tracked it so well, I just still am a little bit concerned about it. But I also have that purist mindset of wanting the exact way it came from the factory. But
Yeah.
that that
And that's always the struggle,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
you want it the exact way it came. That's the whole mystique behind it, is that it's never been opened. Otherwise,
hmm
somebody could just go buy an empty box and 36 packs, and that's that, if the availability was there. But you want it sealed.
yeah,
I've got boxes behind me. I want them all sealed. This is stuff that people are not resealing, so it's easy for me to go out, pick it up, buy it.
right.
But at the same time, you also don't want to throw $350,000-$400,000 down the drain
hmm
and end up with a bunch of common and uncommon cards that were shoved into fake packs, like we saw in when the Guru box got opened.
Yeah,
And so it's that balance of how much do you value that authenticity of the original seal versus your money.
yeah,
And I think we're seeing that shift. The higher that dollar amount goes,
hmm
it's much harder to justify a piece of shrink plastic wrap around a box
yeah,
versus security of an investment.
yeah. And to be honest, I'm really thinking right now of FaceTiming my buddy that I bought this box from and be like, hey, can we just do this in person together, open it together so I can just get this ease of mind out of the way, this calm my anxiety, film it and do all that, and then just put like my sticker over it or whatever, like TCA did and they
Yeah.
did over there. But
And I think there's merit to, I mean, to give you all a little context, Radar and I have discussed this box before, and that was 100% my vote because, where, I financially, I don't know your whole portfolio picture, but I can't imagine that you would want to risk losing that amount of money
right,
that box is on,
right, right.
but, and so, I definitely wouldn't, right? If I can tell you right now, if one of these boxes I thought were resale, I'd crack it open, and those are like $100.
Yeah.
So like, but and so yes, it makes sense. And I think the one thing that really aided Leonhart in this specific situation was that he, at least from what was told to me, I haven't quite seen the video myself yet, but people told me that it does sound like he is going to utilize that in his pop-up shop that he is doing later this year. And so it sounds like it maybe would have been opened anyways. And so it's better to just knock it out of the way now since he's going to integrate it into what would have eventually been open.
Yeah.
So maybe it was an easier choice for him.
Yeah, I talked to him today after the video because there was one very interesting thing that happened during that opening, and it also I was very happy that it did happen. I felt bad for him a little bit, but um, and the guy from Collector Cash, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but
Amen.
very very experienced, been doing this for 30 years, like he said, and he explained it perfectly. They opened this box and weighed the packs. They only had 10 definitive heavy packs. Now, it is well known from the hardcore collectors that WotC was just pumping this product out like crazy, and things were not perfect all the time. There have been variances of boxes with 9 hollows, 10 hollows, 11 hollows. I've even seen an unlimited box with 16 hollows. Like, this stuff
Mhm.
happens. And I know it's very hard to wrap your head around that because you're not paying $3.99 anymore for a pack or
Yeah.
$100 for a box. When you're talking 10, 20, 30,000, 500,000 for a box and it's not perfect and there's these red flags, it's really, really hard to put in your brain that it wasn't tampered with. But the thing is, there were issues in the manufacturing process because
Mhm.
they were pumping this stuff out as fast as
Yeah.
possible. I mean, I middleman a box at one point that the when they opened up the box, the packs had like excess glue on it, and
Mhm.
it concerned them, so they FaceTimed us before they opened it, just to be there with them during it because they had a concern. There was actually an extra pack in the box, 37 packs. So first of all, like, why would anyone reseal a box with an extra pack? And then we started
Yeah.
opening them. First pack, Blastoise, ended up pulling 12 hollows. Every card was mint, so it was fine. And even to this day, they still kind of feel like it was resealed, but it clearly wasn't. It was just
Wasn't. Yeah.
a random, it was a quality miss. That was it.
Yeah,
Like this
quality.
stuff.
And I mean, we even still see that today in modern Pokemon, where things have
Yeah.
gotten a lot better. We saw Hidden Fates; they like overglued the packs, and
Hmm.
everyone thought they were resealed because the packs, like some of them, would have glue coming out of like where
Yeah.
the what's it called when the crimp, where the
The
crimp
crimp.
came
Yeah.
across, some of the glue would come out of it,
Yeah.
and people were like, "Oh, these are resealed." And there were tons of problems with it. So, like, even today, there's still quality control things. Obviously, you never want to see it, especially on something high end like that,
Hmm.
but it can happen. And that also doesn't mean that those other two hollows aren't just in packs that maybe teetered that line, right?
Well, that's
It could happen.
right, and that's the interesting thing that I've never seen before. And I wanted him to open it so bad, but one of the packs weighed less than 20 grams. It was 19.84, and like clearly it's missing a card, maybe two cards in that pack. So it was a thin pack. I'm really curious to see if like it has a hollow in it, or maybe like
The
multiple
God pack.
hollows. Yeah,
It's the
and
one they made, the
yeah,
one God pack. There's eight
like
hollows in it.
I'm really interested to see what happens. Like, because again, he's got 10 definitive heavy packs. So like, is that random pack that's missing card, does it have two hollows in it? Does it have a hollow in it? What's the deal? I'm really excited to see what happens there.
Mhm.
I hope he keeps track of that and like thinks of it once for whatever he
Oh, I'm
does with
sure
that
he will.
box.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see that. I love these weird things that happen with
The
Pokemon.
anomalies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. And
And
then
then finally,
yeah,
there's one more. We've had a lot of first base news. Lead us off with it.
uh, again, our the guy that brought us here to the prices that we have today, or I guess a couple months ago, Logan Paul has somewhat made it clear that he's planning on selling another first edition base set booster box.
Possibly, yeah, selling
Possibly.
at least. And I want to clarify that because I also took that as the impression that he was going to open it. He had mentioned in his Impulsive podcast he was talking to somebody that's kind of like a crypto guru,
Hmm.
not to be confused with the other guru that also was in crypto,
Yeah.
but someone that is very involved in the crypto scene, and kind of said that maybe he wants to, and the way he phrased it was sell a box for crypto.
Yeah.
Now, I took that as breaking a box because when he first did his box break announcements and stuff, he also referred to that as selling a box, even though he was selling the packs within a box. And
Hmm.
so I think, that may just be the way he phrases it. But maybe he just meant selling the box sealed for crypto, which would probably be a bigger thing for the crypto side than it would be the Pokemon world.
Hmm.
But if he did a box break where you could buy into packs, it was a publicity thing, kind of like the last one, then it would be a bigger deal. And this is actually, I'm going to give myself the little check mark plug here, but I actually just made a video that released today. So you guys will see it. It will be my yesterday's video where I actually kind of break down all three of these first edition stories to figure out how you could utilize these stories to figure out if there's a play for you to make.
Hmm.
And so in that, I do kind of discuss that, the way he words that, and unpacking, will it matter, won't it matter kind of thing, because it is kind of ambiguous in how he words that, if
Hmm.
he's actually planning to make it kind of an event thing, or if it's just, I want to move this box into crypto.
If he was smart, or he is smart, he would do another event like that because it just blew up. So
Well, and he makes so much more breaking it, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you're,
and he
because of
can.
the publicity, like people paid way more for a pack there,
Hmm.
which gave him way more value on the box. At the time, the boxes were only like 200K,
Hmm.
but he got, it was
400.
like 300 or 400 or something value out of it, which is what pushed that box price higher. So if he wants to push those to a new all-time high, or just even rake in more money, the break would probably be the logical way to go.
Right, and that first break, a lot of it went towards the NAMI Foundation for
Hmm.
that Leonhart, his charity thing. So, I'm pretty sure Logan covered his cost, made a little extra money, or to even cover more costs because what goes into that production.
The production.
But
Yeah.
the donations that came in, he did donate a lot of the proceeds as well. So
It was like 50,000 ish
it
or
was
something like that.
it was well over 100. That came
Okay.
strictly
Oh wait,
from
the proceeds from the box also went.
some of it. I don't know.
Okay.
I just know over 100 grand from that event
Okay.
went to the NAMI foundation. So yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I would think he'd go all in this time for himself, make some
Yeah.
extra money, sell the packs for Bitcoin.
Hype it up on
I,
the 25th anniversary, kind of put that tagline in there,
exactly.
something with charity, something. Yeah.
Yeah, or not
So,
even any charity at all. Like just do it full business wise. I mean, I think he'd
yeah,
drive just as much
that
hype. And
option's there as well. Yeah.
I I actually DM'd him a couple hours ago if he'd wanted to be on the podcast, and he politely declined. But so yeah, it'll be fun to see that again. I think an event like that really just was a fun time for everybody, for us to watch and be together to be a part of it in that way, whether you bought a pack or not. So I hope he does. I hope he does another break. It's just a fun thing to be around. So looking forward to hearing more on
He's
that.
probably got a little prepping for a fight here coming up before he breaks any more boxes. So,
I can't see. I mean, I know he takes these things seriously, but with the amount of things that he does, I can't assume that's the only thing he has his mind on. So
yeah.
yeah.
So, with that, I think that pretty much covers the news, unless you've got anything else for us.
That's pretty much a whole episode. But yeah, let's jump into the main
No,
topic.
we could have probably filmed an episode off just the news, but this was a big one, right? We've had a few lackluster, so we got a lot of stuff coming out, so we really wanted to hit on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got the main topic today for you guys, which is Pokemon too big to fail? And I wanna start us off with just a first, no explanation, kind of like how we do blips and bleps. Answer the question, just yes or no.
No.
Pokemon too big to fail, and your answer is no.
What about you?
Yes, it's too big to fail at this point.
Okay.
So great. Let's unpack it, right? Let's see why our answers differ. So the first thing I want to kind of touch on is Pokemon's reach, right? Everyone knows the statistic, highest grossing media franchise of all time. We all repeat the same thing over and over, right? But their reach is actually just astronomical. Like, not only can you literally deck a whole room out in Pokemon garb if you want to, but you can go buy a Pikachu statue, like we mentioned, or a Charizard card statue. Or I told you I had a little story, but there was one time I was hunting on eBay back in 2015, probably, and I saw it was like a TV Tokyo Channel 7 something set of spoons. It was Pokemon spoons.
There is no
And I was
spoon.
like, this looks bootleg. I am just not sure if this is real. And so I started researching, and it had the exact same tagline, like company production, everything that like a lot of the JR Rally stuff does and everything like that, the channel network. Turns out they were a real release. They were actually not just spoons, they were also forks, they were plates. I didn't find any of that. I found the spoons. I won them for $25. I sold them for like $180 at a regional once. But you can have spoons. If you go to Japan and you look at the manhole covers on the streets, they're doing a whole promotion where like a bunch of the different cities have different Pokemon representatives, and on the manhole covers there's Pokemon there. You can literally, like, the year 2016 when Pokemon exploded, they had a Super Bowl commercial. Everyone was out, Pokemon Go. You can walk on the street and play games with people. Like, it is just so far. It's not just cards, or it's not just the anime. It's not, or even the manga back in the day. You can deck your whole freaking bathroom out. You can have a Pikachu shower curtain, Pikachu floor mat. You can have a towel that's Pikachu. Like, you have everything. Pikachu toothbrush. Why not? And he'll probably say when you're done brushing your teeth. Like, you can literally, you can have everything in Pokemon. Like, their reach is actually just astronomical. And that, in like a very baseline summary, is why I think it's too big to fail, because the IP is so valuable that if it started to fail, if it ever showed a sign of weakness, they could just pivot into something else. In worst case, they can't come up with any ideas, right? You know, the guy that gives a good idea and they throw them out the window. They've done that like 100 times and they still can't come up with anything good. They just sell it. They just sell it to another company, and that company takes the brand and runs with it.
And then
I just
kills
don't
it.
see a what?
And then kills it.
And then kills it. And then maybe, okay, sure, maybe.
Which has
But
happened.
I just don't see a world where they don't continue just to capture virtually every market in some regard.
Now, a lot of what I'm going to say probably during this video is going to make me sound like I'm on your side here, because I love that all this stuff that they're doing. It's awesome. I love these exclusive collaborations that they're doing with artists, the Bear Walker skateboards, Daniel Arsham sculptures. You know, it's very exciting, and it's, again, just spreading the awareness and outreach of Pokemon to adults, to other types of collectors and people who have different interests. So, yeah, it's bigger than it ever was. It'll probably continue to grow, but you know, we thought the banks were too big to fail. And yeah, sure, there's a lot of illegal activity going on that led to some downfall there, but
Maybe Pikachu's doing some illegal activity.
who knows what Pikachu's selling in the back? What is he doing? You know, it's
I saw Detective Pikachu. I saw the crime rings. I know they exist.
Ryan Reynolds has some pretty iffy movies back in the day. So tie that in with Pikachu,
Sure.
you got some scandals. I love Ryan Reynolds. Please don't watch this and hate me.
But if you want to be on Radar's podcast, just message him.
Yeah. Just message me. I've also been told I look like you, so that could be fun in some way.
I have not.
So, Pokemon is expanding at a rapid pace right now, from what I've kind of picked up on. They're opening up a whole bunch of new Pokemon centers, not only in Japan, but finally it sounds like they're opening one up in the UK. I think I read that somewhere. This is just, I'm throwing this out. I don't know. I haven't.
I think it was like a pop-up shop that was done in London. They were doing it around the time of Worlds. I think that was kind of to promote Pokemon World Championships,
Was it?
you know, coming to Europe, which was a huge deal. I don't think it was supposed to be necessarily a permanent thing, but I do think it was going to extend out kind of across that summer. And then Worlds did not happen because of COVID.
Yeah. Okay. So I am interested to see what happens to the card game now. Are people going to be extremely excited to get back into it and start playing, or are they just not going to? After this long stint of not being able to participate and go to these events and do these things, are the stores that once were there not there any longer for those kids to do that? What is going to happen to the card game? And I think every little piece of Pokemon can easily influence the other pieces, especially the card game being kind of what people know. It's either the video game or the card game. I think would be their two strongest attributes or I guess industries that they're in. So the fact that they are expanding so widely, are they saturating the market? Are people going to get bored of it? Are they going to see too much of it? And that, I think, could be a very reasonable conclusion to come to, that it's just it's too much. It's too much in your face. You know, we love Pikachu, we love Squirtle, we love those guys behind you, but when is you know, when is enough? Is it too much? I don't know. I mean, that's like, for me, I've gotten burnt out a little bit of the cards, so that's why I'm happy to see these exclusive things come out. And I spent extra money to get that Charizard, and I should have bought that Mew skateboard. I never did, but yeah,
I missed it too.
Yeah, so to me, I just think there's a realistic possibility that they are doing too much, and then the whole unknown of what the life will be like after we get back to normal, if there ever will be a normal, what's going to happen. So yeah, that's really, I mean, again, all intuition here. I don't have the analytics, the data to back any of this up. I mean, they are opening up a lot more Pokemon centers in Japan in recent years, right? I mean, we see all the new.
They have.
They've
opened
promos.
multiple, and I think the big telltale sign on how strong they think their own market reach is going to be is, you know, they did the pop-up shop for Worlds in London. Are they going to expand back to other countries, right? There used to be a Pokemon Center in New York City in Times Square. Well, it wasn't exactly in Times Square. I think it was over on 7th Street by the like the Rite Aid. And because I went to it, it was right by NBC Studios. And will they bring one of those back? Eventually that got converted to Nintendo World. The draw of Pokemon kind of back then started to wane, but now we're back to this point of Pokemon culture is at an all-time high. I mean, I think if that thing still existed there as a Pokemon Center versus Nintendo World, it would probably be 10 times more popular than what it is now. But they still haven't made that leap. They still haven't brought that over. We did get an online Pokemon Center about, was it 5 years ago ish, that we never, we did not have one prior. Now Canada has one, US has one. Obviously the Japan one still goes on. But even that we've kind of seen wane a little bit, in terms of popularity. It's still popular, but now the boundary of being able to order from Japan and do those things and get their exclusives is much lower than what it used to be. And so it's kind of taken that almost like the coolness factor, the mystique of it away, to where now it's just, another place to order Pokemon. And so I understand where you're coming from, right? And I especially understand with COVID, right? Where, especially the competitive game specifically, which does have some merit to, the prices, the cards, the popularity, etc. I actually have this on a list to make a video of how the competitive play impacts. But the thing is, that's all like such a short-term window, right, of the overall picture of Pokemon. Like, I am a firm believer that these little guys behind us are going to outlive me and you, and it's just really hard to see Pokemon ever making some of the mistakes that you would have to make as a company to lose that favor, right? And we've seen weakness. Sword and Shield, a lot of people were negative towards it. It was still one of the best-selling games they've ever made, but there was some negativity in the media for it. And whether they, if they release another game where they reuse the sprites and reuse assets and just kind of, effectively take one of their other games and wash it over it again, maybe that grows. Maybe that sentiment that they really don't care about us grows, right? But it seems like every time they have one of those little hiccups, they've got just the biggest snowball behind it ready to roll. They have that little hiccup with Sword and Shield, and then they're like, 25th anniversary, baby, let's go. It's one of those things where I just don't know that they're ever going to have enough of those hiccups in a row where they could really start to lose that market reach, because just so many of us have an attachment to this stuff. And even when a lot of people tend to fall out of favor with it, I think everyone goes through that phase. You talked about burnout a little bit. I've had my periods just since running the store since 2015 where I've had burnout, or even back when I played competitively prior to that I experienced burnout. But I always found my way back here. Always. It just never failed. I found my way back. And I think that's what makes successful IPs so successful. I watched Naruto and Naruto Shippuden growing up, and then once I finished it, I didn't watch it for years. And yet, now here I am with my wife. She's never watched it. We're watching through it again. I'm refinding my love for it, that kind of thing. And somehow I find my way back to it, and now I'm watching through Boruto, and I find my way back to it. It's the same thing with Pokemon. You with Dragon Ball Z, I'm sure that there was a period in your life between hype kid popularity and where you didn't really do much of anything with Dragon Ball Z. Maybe you were just working or, going to school or whatever. And you lost that interest and found your way back. I mean, do you think that's an accurate assessment?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think a huge factor that would have to be in there to, I guess, take Pokemon down would be a real competitor. Is there a real competitor to Pokemon? Has there ever been? Is that possible? Will they just attack? Will Nintendo just take down whoever that competitor is and buy them out, take them out, being too similar? Is that a possibility? And yeah, sure, there's a lot of creative people out there. So, that's another big thing that could potentially lead to a downfall in Pokemon. But the video games is one thing that I wanted to mention as well, because although like you said, a lot of people were complaining it was like the number one selling of all time, right? For them. So, you know,
It's pretty high up there if it's not the number one. I mean,
yeah,
it's very high.
but they're throwing out these Let's Go Eevee Pikachu games that just are awful. And I really hope Pokemon Snap is great. Um, Again, that probably sold extremely well too. You know, that's just me saying it was bad.
And it's because it's for a different target demographic, right? One of
Yeah.
the things that makes Pokemon as an IP so strong and why I believe that it is too big to fail is they have figured out how to capture younger generations over and over again.
Mm.
One of the things that causes big brands to tend to slow and stagnate is when they lose the interest of their younger viewer base. You know, I'm gonna go out on a huge tangent here, but NASCAR, as a sport, you know, has really struggled over the years to pull in that younger viewer base and you know struggle to pull in those ratings. And that's what makes Pokemon so strong. You know, you have your core fan base, your hardcore fans, you know, probably 18 to 40 in demographic that saw Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and said, okay, this game is just a watered down version of Red, Blue, and Yellow with better graphics. It's not really that great. It even makes shining hunting way easier. And they hated it.
Mm-hmm.
But for the kid that's never been engaged in Pokemon before or is just younger, and maybe some of those other mechanics are harder to do, or they go on YouTube and they see all these shiny hunters, you know, shiny hunting, and they want to do that too, but they don't know how to do all the, you know, I was going to call it the Fukuda method, but I don't even think that's right. Whatever, where you get the shiny charm and you do all things. They don't know how to do that. They don't know how to calculate 1 in 8,192 odds. They don't know any of that. But they can sit and play this game and catch shinies and feel like that, and it gets them into it, right? It gets them engaged in it. It plants that little seed in their brain that, you know, the little Pokemon AI jumps in there and says, well, here you are. Welcome. Enjoy the next 80 years on the planet where you're going to buy all our stuff and buy our games and partake in Pokemon culture. And it gets them into it. And they're going to grow up and then they're going to give those games to their kids and they're going to continue that cycle on. And they're very good about capturing that younger audience and trying new things that other companies don't do. You know, when they did the, I think it was an app of like brushing your teeth with Pikachu, which is kind of why I made that joke about earlier.
Yeah.
But like, they did that is not meant for a 38-year-old man in his bathroom brushing his teeth before bed. I mean, I would probably still use it, but that's not who it's meant for. It's meant for a kid, right? Because it's another way to get a young child to engage with your brand and hook them as a lifelong customer.
Yeah.
And I think as long as they can continue that retention cycle, even if they lose people as they get older, move into different life responsibilities, have kids, whatever, you know, as long as they can continue to engage that younger audience, they'll always be cycling old for new, and keep that trend upwards. And I think that would be the key to their success is if they fail to continue to capture the younger audience. And I want to kind of pivot that there. We've seen another game, Magic, the Gathering, the card game, struggle with this exact thing. Magic has always struggled to bring in that younger audience, you know, and Magic has a plethora of issues right now, whether it's, you know, lack of collectability, you know, there's no play going on, et cetera, bad design choices. You could chalk it up to a number of things of why that company is struggling. But I would say one of the issues that they've recognized that they have had for years was we are not bringing in enough young people into our game to bring fresh blood in. It's cycling the same blood. It doesn't mean that new people have not joined, but just not to the degree that people are leaving. And I think, you know, Magic's one of those games that at one time people probably questioned, is this too big to fail? Oldest trading card game, has the biggest history, blah, 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 most content created around it, etc. And now we're literally watching it fail. And so for me, the big points of Pokemon's success is, can it remain ingrained in literally all types of culture, just all around? And can it continue to capture the young audience and have them grow up with Pokemon being such a large part of their lives?
Yeah, I mean, it's who's their CEO right now? Ishihara? Is that the Ishihara GX? That was called? Yeah.
Well, not the card, the guy.
No, the card is running the
card is
company.
based off of,
Yeah,
yes.
the card is running the company. He literally it sits in an office and people go ask it questions.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a corporation, right? It's a business. So I think it very easily, you know, if people start making wrong decisions, if new executive teams come in and take over that don't, you know, see that same focus or continue to go that route, Yeah. Uh, if they keep everything, yeah, again, if they keep everything perfect the way it is, it probably won't leave in our lifetime. But uh, again, I just think it very easily with some wrong decisions and a solid competitor in the market, um, they could we could see another 2004, 2005 Pokemon era.
Wayne era. Okay, so since you've brought that up, let's unpack it here. What would the market look like if Pokemon started to wane? Right now we talk about how a lot of these cards, we see the Illustrator could go to 1 million. We see all these trophy cards keep going higher and higher. We see sealed box prices is one that you literally ask anyone and they say sealed always goes up. It will always go up. People keep breaking it, blah, blah, blah. But if Pokemon as a whole started to wane, do you think those same things hold true?
I think for a period of time, vintage will continue to grow and grow and grow. Um, as it is with any collectible, the standard age range that people give is 20 to 25 years after its last manufactured or produced product, right? And that's what's considered kind of the peak area for a collectible. But we haven't seen something like Pokemon that has just, like you said, continued to just take over the young demographic. I mean, uh, you look at all the past collectibles,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a short-lived era that, I mean, like Star Wars, 3 movies for people in the 70s, and then you skip ahead to the early 1990s, early or late 1990s, early 2000s, you skip 20, 25 years of people. So it's just constant up and down, but Pokemon has just been 25 years of straight everybody. There
Yeah.
hasn't been a lack of production or in your face everywhere. So Pokemon's a little different, and I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't give you a read on that. But um,
Mhm.
if it were to stop today, 25 years from now, you're looking at Hidden Fates being one of the top collectible
Mhm.
Pokemon pieces.
Yeah.
And then it would just, like stamps, like other stuff, slowly die out, but the top of the top would continue
Still
to
retain.
yeah,
At least as long as there are, however many items, one more than that cares about it.
right.
Then there would still be some degree of interest, right? I think a good example is coin collecting. Coin collecting, you had mentioned stamps over the years has faded, but your highest of high end coins, your vintage stuff, that kind of stuff is there's still a market for it. There probably always will be a market for it. And it will be, because it almost turns into more of a status icon
Hmm.
than it does even just necessarily interest in the item. I see a lot of people that buy coins strictly because they are status icons, regardless of, what the history is on them. And so we could even see that just having a first ed base box sitting on your mantle is a status icon when people come over, even if you don't care about Pokemon.
How much of that is happening right now? There's a lot of Pokemon pieces out there that are status items. People are paying prices to have that status when there's thousands of them, hundreds of them, whatever. You know, I think that's an interesting
Yeah.
idea that you bring up right there. Um, but yeah, so yeah, just moving forward,
No,
Pokemon.
I like that you. I mean, I'm thinking about it now because I didn't really think of it in a modern context.
Yeah,
Like people right now buying, you probably can't see it, but I have a Pokemon Snap 2 that I'm pointing to right there, graded. I don't even know that I remember playing Snap 2.
Snap
I
two.
know I remember playing Snap 1,
There's only one Snap
right? Huh? Or not Snap Stadium. Sorry, I
Stadium.
apologize. Stadium. Pokemon Stadium. Sorry, we're all on. Nah, just spoil one of my blips. Dang. But anyways, because I'm seeing on my board. But anyways, point being, Pokemon Stadium 2. I don't even remember playing Pokemon Stadium 2.
I played that
I
one a
remember
lot.
playing Pokemon Stadium
I
1
never played that one.
vividly. Yeah, and yeah, I have a graded one back there. I appreciate it a lot. I like it a lot. But why do I like it? because I'd never even played it.
Yeah.
And is it because I like it because it is a kind of a status symbol of this game, and of that era, that culture, it transcends both Pokemon and video games, two things I like, and like for example, if I go back there even farther, there's a Tomba back there. I can give you a million reasons why I like that and why it has nothing to do with being a status symbol. I can't really give you a reason other than Pokemon Stadium too.
Mm-hmm.
So how many other people out there have similar stories where maybe they don't have an attachment to a specific product they're buying, but it's cool to say they have it.
Mm-hmm.
And other people see they have it. We're getting in, we're diving a little deep here, but we're in that Instagram, TikTok culture where people want to see tons of bills flown everywhere. They want to see the highest of the high end, where, the people that tend to get the most followers on Instagram are the ones that can either make their cards look better than everyone else can make them look, or the people that have the most expensive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because people don't want to see the stuff they already own. They want to see the better stuff. And so we are almost getting into that culture of status symbols and status icons. And that could also pose a risk to this, because that tends to mean that people inflate some of this stuff. And I like how we're almost playing devil's advocate for each other's points here, but it does tend to pose a risk.
Yeah. Why did I buy this Daniel Arsham Charizard?
I mean, I don't know, because I don't like it, so I question that anyways. But why did you buy it? Because you even mentioned, I thought of this during the podcast, but I wasn't going to say anything, is there was a point where you mentioned, I've been burnt out on the trading cards lately, so I bought the Daniel Arsham Charizard. I'm just thinking, well, that's just a statue of a card. Like,
Yeah.
how is that any different?
I'll be honest. Like, I'm thinking about it now and going through my head. It's a status thing. I'm going to be one of 500 people that have that. Also, there was a thought in my head that was like, oh, this would be a cool opening for a video. It'll look great on my Instagram. And then I found out that inside the box, it has a first edition stamp and a base set 2 stamp. So I don't know what he was thinking or who instructed him to do that, but it's a little questionable. So
wait, on the card, there's a first ed and
so on the packaging, on the card itself,
but not on the actual design.
Right. The crystals the way that it's built, I don't think you wouldn't even be able to see the stamp because there's crystals in that spot on the card. But in the packaging, you can see it. It's got a first edition stamp. I think it's like the foam that's in it or whatever. First edition stamp and a base set 2 stamp. So it's really,
that's
really
almost
cringy.
Just like, now you have because you have someone designing something that like
doesn't know,
clearly doesn't know enough about, like, and like whoever QA'd that also didn't know enough about, like,
right.
But it's a status symbol, and that can be a dangerous thing in terms of pricing, because once everyone's motives are just to show off to other people, the attention span wanes, right? Eventually it's going to be something else as a better status symbol to have, I'll give you an example. Logan Paul in his video talked about maybe wanting to sell one of his boxes for crypto, because right now crypto is exploding. So saying that you have a lot of crypto, that's the cool thing to do right now, right? It's a trend setting thing. It's a trend following thing. Right now, Pokemon's the trend, and the trend's your friend. You see it on everything. Follow the YouTube algorithm. Do all the same videos everyone else does. Instagram, post the same stuff everyone else does. Like, and that's the thing. So people tend to follow trends if they're trying to follow that status. Mm-hmm. And so what happens when Pokemon is not the current trend? Doesn't mean Pokemon's not huge. But, we saw Fortnite blow up, right? Fortnite was everything everyone talked about, right? And if you had there was some skeleton skin or something that if you had that one, then you were like an OG, you were the guy. And that, that was a status thing. There were people that were paying hundreds to thousands of dollars for an account. I think it was Skull Trooper is what it was called. And they were paying that much money for an account like that. But what happens, I don't think people are paying that much for those accounts now, because Fortnite has kind of waned.
I wish I listened to myself too. Those cards, those Fortnite cards, blowing
they
up. Yeah, blowing up.
I'm not 100% convinced on those, but we could probably unpack that in a different episode. But I'm not sold on it yet. But the big thing for me is that, and I need to think about this more, because this could be its own video for sure. Mm-hmm. But things as status icons deriving price. I think make them some of the absolute riskiest investments.
Hmm.
And,
That goes
you
to
know, and
like
maybe you don't agree with me.
your very first blip, basically trophy cards and first edition Charizard. I mean, even Gary himself said it in a podcast with Graham Stephan. He thinks the Charizard should be worth 200,000, 250,000. I've heard people say, like, other well-known people that, I mean, I think a lot of them, whether they own it or not, say it should go back down to 100,000. But the fact that that came from Gary, uh, and him tying it in with this, he kind of mentioned about the trendy backbone of it. Yeah, it's a dangerous idea, and uh,
Well, and what happens when you take someone like Gary or some of these other big names that have, you know, these high end cards or trophy cards or whatever, and they start selling them off? Maybe they're at a position in life where they want to make, you know, a financial move that's different, retirement, or, you know, pass things on to their kids, whatever, and they start moving them. And it was a status icon. So now your biggest icons of icons that had these things are now getting rid of them. Does that lead other people to get rid of them? Does that cause the market to collapse? Does it cause, you know, do people not want them as a status icon anymore? Do people lose confidence in the market because those people are giving them up? And maybe they're giving up just because they are taking a different direction in life, but maybe other people write a narrative or perceive that, you know, oh man, shoot, something bad's about to happen, guys. And people start dumping them in, you know, and that kind of thing plays out. And I think this is where I really wanted to get on this. Like, is Pokemon too big to fail? Because we're showing some of the signs of weakness and where they could occur. I don't know that any one of these is big enough to take the whole IP down. Maybe it could take a sector down, like the cards. I don't know that you could ever maybe take Pokemon as a whole down, but you know, I do think it does show weakness. And I think it's funny how you almost started by defending my points and now I'm defending yours. But I think I'm almost speechless because what you brought up here about like how we've gotten to hear about the status icons and the where people are putting their money and why, and how we literally both in a matter of 30 seconds could come up with one item that we have both bought that we really don't have any attachment to, but had convinced ourselves we had attachment to it. And then as we unpacked it, realized we didn't. And that I think this is like the greatest point. Anyone that's like still here, like an hour into the podcast, is going to get maybe the greatest tidbit that we have ever put in a podcast, which is that it does not matter how experienced you are, how knowledgeable you are about a topic, something as strong as trend setting or a status icon or being emotionally charged about something, you can be susceptible to it without even realizing it. It's so subliminal that it can literally capture anyone. And obviously, now that we've started to discuss it, I'm going to go reanalyze pretty much every single thing I own. And I probably won't own that stadium too next week.
Sell it to me. I need that.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
played.
maybe there we go. Why do you need it? I thought you said you didn't play
No,
it.
I played the mini games of Stadium 2 nonstop.
Oh, okay.
Stadium 1, I never played.
Okay.
I will.
Well, so there you go.
Yeah, I
But
gotta
like,
play some of that.
yeah, I think that is maybe one of the greatest things we have ever unpacked in our podcasts, because now I just want to think about it more and go make like more videos out of it, because there's so much more to discuss there, but that would maybe even have to be its own conversation.
Yeah.
So, because I think we've kind of analyzed the whole, like, is it too big to fail, where our opinions lie, and some of the weaknesses that could cause it to fail. Obviously, the strengths are very apparent every single day. We see the strengths of Pokemon every day and why it could succeed forever. You know, so if you're good on it, I'm good on it. We've got one more section left of the podcast. But before we do that section, if you guys are still hanging out here with us and you're enjoying this kind of content, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment below. You know, I know we've told you a couple things today to leave a comment about, but feel free to leave a comment about literally anything we've talked about. We both try on our respective videos to reply to everything.
Yeah.
So that would, you know, help us out a ton, and maybe we can even talk about this further. But let's jump into it. The blips and the bleps. And I'm going to start us off today.
Yeah, you're gonna do you're gonna do the blips this time.
I'm doing
I'll
the
do
blips. So I got the blips. And My first blip is that brick and mortar stores, like hobby stores, that are not kept clean and cleanly, easily accessible, presentable, are it is like one of the top determining factors, in my opinion, that they are destined to fail.
LaMelo Ball rookie card prices will be higher than Zion Williamson's.
Huh. I just want to say real quick that that's a great blep, specifically because I know very little about basketball and I still have an opinion on that. And I mean, I have an opinion on everything, but like,
All right.
pretty strong opinion on that. So maybe you guys should pick that one. But all right, my next blip is that the Green Bay Packers will win the Super Bowl this year.
Good luck.
Hey, you're not allowed to laugh or comment.
Gambling is becoming the most dangerous vice in our current times.
We're gonna have a lot of videos to make. And my last blip is that Pokemon Snap 2, while we have not heard anything, I think it's going to be a summer release instead of their big holiday release this year, because I have a feeling that they are going to dedicate holiday 2021 to Breath of the Wild 2. Even though I have nothing to back up either of those.
Okay. I have a similar nothing to back up here. Pokemon will finally collab with an outside creator or company on a card set. I guess within the next year.
Join us in our next episode of Collectible Conversations, where we talk about all 6 blips and bleps.
Yeah, I think those were all very good ones.
Those were some of our hottest, juiciest ones. I'm going to say, man, good luck picking between those, because I want to hear about all of them, but you only get one. Only one. Got to pick the best one that you think. So let us know what you think the best one is. Otherwise, that's all I've got for you today. I think we've had some great discussion today. I really enjoyed it. So if you're good, we'll sign on out of here.
I'm fantastic. Thank you guys all for watching. Like, subscribe, comment your favorite animal or whatever we talked about in the podcast today. And we'll see you on Wednesday.